Hi, everyone. Welcome to an interview with Coach Gary Henson. This is Rennie Gabriel at the Financial Coach Incorporated. And I thought it would be a great idea to interview Jim because Gary, oh God, I shouldn't be looking at the screen and seeing the word Jim.
Yeah.
I thought it would be a great idea to interview Coach Gary because his exclusive area of work is business coaching. He has coached one of the largest, or the largest BMW motorcycle dealer in the world, the largest mushroom dealership or grower in the country, other large businesses. And I think the business coach brings something unique to the table, and I'm going to have Coach Gary talk about that. In the meantime, this is going to be recorded, and so if you missed it, it'll be on our portal. But the point is, you can make a lot more money. If you're going to sell your time for dollars, why not do it for a lot of money instead of just a little bit of money? And that's what I want to have. One of the things I'm going to have Coach Gary talk about. So, Gary, welcome to the interview. This, by the way, is the first one I am doing, so I am practicing on you.
Oh, okay.
And then I'll see if this is something that would be a good thing for me to do on into the future with other people.
Great.
So, let me start it this way. I think there's a difference between regular coaching and business coaching, but how would you describe it? And would you say there is a difference?
Okay, so Rennie, I'm gonna answer a three different questions inside of your question, because there's a lot of myths and there's a lot of conversations that go on in the coaching community that I feel are very inaccurate. And being that I've been doing this for over 29 years, and being that business coaching, which is a surprise to most people, was invented right here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Coaching and business coaching has been going on for 35, 40 years. And a lot of other people have made claims that they were the ones that came up with the concept and the idea. We won't get into that, but I'd like to clarify a few of those myths and get into some conversations about that. So first and foremost, businesscoach.com was founded over 29 years ago under the name Advanced Business Consultants. And when the internet became relevant and prevalent, we changed our name to businesscoach.com after we acquired the domain name and some similar domain names that we thought would be appropriate. During that time frame, what I've learned is that a lot of people do what we call coaching. The person that cuts my hair is now a hair coach. My real is now a real estate coach, and so on and so forth. And I don't have any problem with that. But when it gets to my area of expertise and what I've done for 29 plus years is business coaching, that is a way to work with not startup businesses or solo practitioners. That can be included, but really where business coaching thrives and makes the most sense is when you have a number of employees, mainly numbers of like 25 employees or more. And when you have a number of employees, then business owners are at a level where they have not done the appropriate background, education, and understanding to know enough about their business to take it to the next level. So what a business coach can do is several different things. Number one, help them understand the transformative process. Include transformation as part of the process of business coaching. That is to say that business owners don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
Or in other words, let's say that they're really, really good at marketing and they're really, really good at keeping track of their numbers and their finances, but yet they have a void in their personality of working with employees, of managing their own time. They may be working 80 hours a week. A major leader of a very successful business in Sacramento here, just about the time they had their 30th anniversary, I was introduced to them, and the gentleman said to me, he said, well, why would I hire you as my coach? I'm making a lot of money. I own the building that I'm in. I'm building a new facility. I take my wife to Hawaii for a vacation every year for 2 weeks. We do this, we do that, all these things. And I said, I don't know. I said, if you don't have a need in the world, then maybe a business coaching is not for you. But let me ask you this question: how many hours a week are you working? And he said, well, I probably average working 70 hours a week, or some weeks more than that. And I said, well, it doesn't sound to me like you're running your business, you're leading your business. It sounds like you're babysitting your business. And therefore, when we got into working together, he and I, and he started understanding what a business coach could do for him, all of a sudden, we started looking at putting a university together, a training program for his entire company. We looked at ways for him to delegate to employees and work with his employees, his senior managers, so that they could do the heavy lifting, and he was more of an advisory role. He didn't have an HR director, and he had 200 employees. I said, so we went into a list of different things for him, and as he began to work with me, he transformed his life, and he transformed the entire organization without even knowing what the word transformation means. So business coaching really alters one's perception about their own business when it's delivered correctly. And business coaching can support people in areas of time and money and leadership and team building and relationships with their employees, holding their employees accountable, and a lot of different things. And then to put another spin on it, and then I'll let you get back to seeing if I even answered the question. That is that there's 3 things that a well-trained business coach can do for their client that the client will never, ever be able to do for themselves. And those 3 things are: they bring an outside objective opinion. So everybody has an opinion, and people that have children, housewives that have children, people that have a hobby of photography, people that have been married and divorced, or have been married for 10 or 15 or 20 years, all those people bring wisdom to the table. They bring something to the table, an outside objective opinion. So without knowing everything about you, Rennie, I could bring something to the table and give you an opinion. You may take my advice, you may not, but I bring an outside objective opinion. I become your accountability partner. So you say, hey, Gary, here's my goals and my dreams, the things that I want to do over the next 3 years. Can you help me reach my goals and dreams? The answer is yes, and I will hold you accountable to those things, because there's going to be times when emotionally you're going to be tired, you're going to be frustrated, you're going to not see enough results happening. And so I'm there to hold you accountable to stay on track rather than take a new avenue or go a different direction and get away from goals. And then the third thing is that all of us in business, and I would include myself in that equation, all of us in business are struggling in some area or another in our business. And a good, well-trained business coach can show people where their struggles can be turned into victories and get results. And I'll give you a very simple example of that. I was teaching this to my Thrive Business Academy, a group of coaches that I work with ongoingly. And I was teaching this a couple of years ago, and I was searching for an example, and I looked over at my credenza in my office, and there was a pile of bookkeeping, several months worth of bookkeeping piled there to go to my bookkeeper. And the previous year's tax extension form and forms sitting there. And I said to him, here's an example. A good coach working with me would come into my office and say, hey, let me see your current P&Ls. How current are you with your P&Ls? And I'd have to say, well, there's 3 or 4 months worth of bookkeeping right there that if that was done, if it was my bookkeeper, I'd be current. But each stack was missing 1 or 2 little things that I was too lazy to deal with. But I'm focusing over here training coaches. I'm working with clients. all the fun things that I love to do
Yeah.
get my attention, right?
Yeah.
But the things that I don't want to do, like bookkeeping, I keep adding to the stack. And the bigger the stack gets, the more frustrated and the least likely I am to address that. So those are some things about business coaching that I'd love to talk about, because I think it helps people have a different perspective on business coaching and see something different that they haven't seen before.
Well, that's ideal. And the funny thing is, you've answered one of my future questions already, and that's what does a business coach bring to the table? And
Yeah.
it's the accountability, it's the outside partnership, it's seeing what the owner can't see,
Yes, absolutely.
supporting them to get stuff done and it doesn't have to be that you do the bookkeeping, but
No.
you set it up to get done.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so, yeah, thank you. Now, the people who will probably be listening to the recording are those who may already be doing coaching. They may be working with financial planners. They may be working with other entrepreneurs. But why should they consider business coaching as opposed to doing something different than they're already doing?
Another great question, Rennie. I'm glad you brought that up. There's several answers to that as well. But when I look at the different coaching models that people bring to the table, and I talk to hundreds of people a month from all around the world that are all different kinds of coaches, and they ask me that same question. I say, if you're a life coach or a personal coach, or if you're coaching individuals, that's a noble profession, and I hope you're good at it, and I hope you've learned to do more than just ask questions. There's a whole philosophy behind coaching and getting people to transform their lives and change the way they do things. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So to answer your question, the first thing I say is, if you're going to do something, throw yourself into it. Be good at what you do. And if you're going to be good at what you do, then you might as well get paid, and paid well for it. So a lot of other forms of coaching and a lot of other training programs, even for business coach, advocate that people charge $100 an hour or $200 an hour,
right?
Or that they charge $600 a month and give 3 coaching sessions or 1 coaching session per month. We have a very simple system and a very simple process for that. And it averages out to something around $500 per hour face-to-face time.
Mm-hmm.
You meet with the client, you meet with them 3 to 4 times a month for an hour to an hour and a half, face-to-face if it's convenient for you, but you can do it over the phone. We're doing fine here using a video system and communicating. So we could be doing it this way, or I could drive 500 or 600 miles down to where you are and coach you in Southern California. It's a long drive to do a coaching session. So we average about $500 an hour face-to-face time. And we also have a client workbook and a system that helps people with the conversations. But the point is that if a business owner or leader is big enough to afford to pay $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 per month to a coach to coach them, because we don't really charge by the hour, it just works out to be at least $500 per hour face-to-face time. If a person has an organization that can afford to leverage you and utilize you for 3 or 4 sessions per month, and you work with them and you make that kind of money, minimum $500 per hour, then that's good money, and it's good for them, it's good for you. You transform their life and their business, you help them and you support them, and vice versa. It's a win-win situation. But if you're coming to me and you have issues and they evolve around your wife or your kids or your pets or whatever, and we're having a life coaching or an executive coaching conversation, I'm not sure how much you can afford to pay me and make it worth your while. Whereas with our clients, we always make sure that the projects that they're working with and the things that we work with them on get them a handsome return on their investment.
Yeah, and the funny part about what you're talking about is an ordinary client, let's say it's an executive or it's an entrepreneur, a chiropractor, or whatever, it's not likely they're going to be able to afford what would amount to maybe $1,500 or $2,000 a month. And therefore, you would want to be working with companies that have at least 25 employees or maybe $5 million a year in revenue, because that's where your impact is going to make the biggest difference as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head with that conversation. Yeah, absolutely.
So is there a different way for a coach to think who's looking to become a business coach as opposed to, just selling time for dollars and, just being a coach?
Yes. I'm going to address the time for money issue in a second, but there is a mindset that we suggest that all coaches take on, but particularly if you're a business coach, we advocate that you need to think like an entrepreneur and coach like a coach. Most coaches get the two collapse. They are struggling mightily for a number of different reasons, and one of them is simply that if you're an entrepreneur and you're thinking like an entrepreneur in any business, then you probably have a plan of some sort. So you've got you don't necessarily have to have a strategic plan, but maybe you've got an action plan of 2 or 3 or 4 pages that outlines exactly what your day, your month, your week is going to look like and how you're going to focus your attention. So
let me kind of ask you if I'm on the right track with what you're saying, because I think maybe there might be a difference between an entrepreneur and a business owner who is doing coaching work. And what I'm getting at is I meet a lot of entrepreneurs who are owned by their business or their job. They're an entrepreneur from the standpoint of, they don't have a boss above them, but they don't have a strategic plan. They don't have a mission. They're doing all sorts of things at one time, from marketing to the bookkeeping to delivering their coaching and all the rest. And I don't think they're really thinking as a business owner. And I'm thinking maybe that's even different than an entrepreneur.
Well, a true entrepreneur or business person, and I would say that there's some level of
crossover,
or is synonymous with one another. A true entrepreneur, somebody who is really focusing on their business. My definition of a true entrepreneur would be this, Rennie. Someone going into business to bring their product or service to the marketplace with the anticipation of making a profit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, is money the end all be all? Not necessarily. I love what I do. I love training coaches. I love working with entrepreneurs. I love watching them have breakthroughs. And sometimes when I have one of their checks for $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 for a monthly fee in my pocket, I drive away from their office thinking, wow, I would have done this for free because I love doing it so much, and I enjoy so much seeing people have these breakthroughs and these enormous transformational moments in their life where they see things completely different, and it shifts their personal and their business life. But back to the point is that if a true entrepreneur goes into business and sets up a plan, has a mission, a vision, a set of values that they want to bring out into the world, and a direction that they want to work with people, first, they're an entrepreneur. Second, they're a coach. When they get in the coaching arena and they work with people, they don't have to worry about whether they can be honest and direct with them and coach them in a way that may be a little uncomfortable for the client. Because a lot of coaches are saying to themselves, and I've heard them say this to me, well, I would say that to my clients the way that you coach clients, Coach Gary, but I'm afraid they would fire me. Well, you only have one client and they're paying you $2,500 a month, and they need a real stern conversation to create a breakthrough, then you're going to need to be authentic and real and direct with them and honest with them and open with them, and it's for them to have that breakthrough. And if you're worried about your paycheck as opposed to worried about how you coach them, then you're not thinking like an entrepreneur, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could see the difference, and I could see how that can taint the relationship and the success of the client.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, if I can, I'd like to get back to that trading time for money.
Yes, please.
Because I hear this all the time from coaches they talk about, I hear people that haven't actually done it teach it. And
No.
they say, they say, well, you don't want to get in a position of trading time for money. You know, if you trade time for money, you're going to limit, you're going to put a ceiling on yourself, and you're going to limit the overall amount of money that you can make. Whereas if you do a lot of other different kinds of programs and do group coaching programs and this and that, the other thing, and do products and then you'll make the real money. Well, believe me, I've done all those things. And here's the way I would position it. I can work with, on one day, on a Monday, I can work with 5 clients in one day, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I can actually drive to all those clients. It may be a long day for me, but I can actually work with them and spend an hour to 90 minutes with each one of them. And if I'm getting $3,000 per month per client, and I'm working with 5 clients, that's $15,000 I'm bringing in income per month, and I'm only working one day a week. Okay?
Got
I'm
it.
only working one day a week, okay? That's a long day.
Yeah.
Let's spread it out. Let's just say that you have 10 clients and you work with them over 3 days. You're going to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and you're going to have a long weekend every weekend. Now you're bringing in $45,000 per month if you're just getting $3,000 per client. We have clients that pay us $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $10,000 a month. So I'm just picking an average client that has 25 to 50 employees, and you're charging them $3,000 a month. When you get good, you can charge more than that. Okay? So now I'm making $45,000 a month. I'm working 3 days a week, and I'm trading time for money, and I'm having a great lifestyle. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, let's just say, for the sake of the conversation, that you don't want to work more than 3 days a week, and those are 3 short days, and you're making $45,000 a month, and you want to keep it that way. You start a waiting list, because you're going to get referrals from these other clients if you do a good job, and you're going to be doing an ongoing bit of marketing here and networking there. And let's just say you have 2 people that want to do business with you, and you don't want to work any harder than that. So now you give them, in our case, you give them our client workbook, which, by the way, people can find online at our website, which we'll give that information out later. You use the client workbook, and you say to them, hey, start reading this, and here's a couple of books that I want you to read. You're going to read them as part of our program anyway. We'll put you on a waiting list. Now you have 2 clients waiting, and you're making $45,000 a month. I would do the math on that and say something in the neighborhood of $500,000 a year. You're trading time for money, and you're having a great lifestyle. Now, if you want to get into group coaching or other things after that, products and services, hey, that would be great. But at the same time, you're not having too bad of a lifestyle, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, and that kind of really changes the trading time for dollars conversation, because I think when coaches are generally hearing that conversation, it's while they're making $100 or $120 an hour, and not $400, $500, $600, $800 an hour.
Absolutely.
And I think what it comes from is the background of someone who's a psychiatrist or psychologist or a marriage and family therapist, and they see a cap on their hourly rate in the $90 to $120 range, and the only way to make more money is to create products or do group work or do something like that, whereas opposed to jumping your hourly rate 5 times higher. Yeah, I could see. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about income, and my conversation is similar to what you're having, because I was unwilling to trade time for dollars, which is why I bought apartment buildings.
Yes.
So I have, let's say dozens of tenants going out every day, and they're working 8 hours and coming home. And then once a month, they share about a quarter of their income with me, month in and month out. And I don't even have to supervise them. So I love that as a business model. And so that gives me the opportunity to do whatever I want, like have conversations like you and I are having, or do the coaching or whatever.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I have thank you. I now have a different idea of what it involves when you're talking trading time for dollars. So thank you, Coach Gary.
Good. You're welcome. Absolutely. That was the point. We want to dispel some of these myths that are out there, that false teachings that other people are teaching.
Yeah, and I loved your side comment about people who teach it but aren't doing it.
Yes, we have a lot of those in our industry.
Oh yeah, exactly. That they read a book or they went to a seminar and now they're teaching what they learned at the seminar.
Exactly.
But let me ask you another question. What would you say are the different attitudes of the coaching clients you might be working with? So like, you've got a couple people on a waiting list, but how do you know that these are people you want to add as one of your coaching clients?
Great question. Okay, so there's a protocol that we have in introducing yourself to potential clients, and that's not how to get the clients or where to find them. That's a different conversation that we have. But the protocol in working with potential clients is never to define business coaching for people, because they want clarity and they want to get a definition for business coaching. You don't define it, and you don't tell them how good you are or how good business coaching is going to be for them. The protocol to sit in front of a potential client is to actually demonstrate to them some of what you do. And during the demonstration process, it typically takes at least one meeting, sometimes 2 or 3, and it's at least an hour meeting, sometimes 90 minutes. So you give them a free coaching session, and during that time, there are guidelines for how you want to treat them. First of all, you want to email them and say, when I get there, I want you to share with me the top 3 areas that you're struggling with right now in your business. So you want to get a feel for things that they're struggling with ahead of time. And then once you get there, you want to bring a recommended reading book for them that fits those 3 struggles. So there's several books on our recommended reading list. Excuse me, it's not recommended reading list, it's our client reading list that is required reading for our clients. There's several books that I usually bring one with me. And then the conversation goes something like this. Oh, you're struggling with time. Tell me a little bit more about that. Well, I'm working long hours and my husband or my wife is getting tired of me coming home late at night and never finishing up the projects I'm working on. Oh, great. So let's just work on that right now, and let's start coaching you right now in that area, and you get to know them. And one of the main questions that you want to leave that meeting with, if you're not going to get an agreement with them or a signed agreement with them, is one of the main things you want to determine is, are they coachable? You see, there's 4 different levels of coachability, Rennie, where people can fall into those categories. They could be, number 1, they could be not coachable.
Yeah.
Number 2, they could be selectively coachable, where they're going to take some of your coaching, but they're not going to do everything that you recommend that they do. And by the way, we have several conversations to validate for them that they should be taking our advice, not selectively taking our advice. Yeah. Then there's somebody who's almost coachable. That's somebody who's reluctantly coachable. That's the 3rd level. And that person is taking our advice. They're actually utilizing and leveraging the coaching, but they see the pain and they feel angst about it. And they understand that even though they're going to do what we ask them to do, it's painful and it's counterintuitive to them. And that goes back to where we started this conversation at the original part of the conversation today, or for those that are watching the video. Some people are uncomfortable and don't understand that they're going to have to get out of their comfort zone, and it's going to be counterintuitive for a coach to work with them. And if it's not, then they probably don't need a coach. And then, of course, there's the last level, and that is you want to walk away knowing that at some level, not maybe in that moment, but at some point, they're going to be completely coachable. Now, completely coachable is what an Olympic athlete is, because Olympic athletes don't show up to Olympic tryouts and say to the coach, okay, I'm going to be your top guy, and here's the way you coach me. This is what I'm looking for. You do this for me, you do that for me, and here's how it's going to work. That doesn't work. The coach says, great, I know what you want to do, but here's what I'm going to have you do right now. Get in the pool, and I'm going to watch you swim a few laps if they're an Olympic swimming candidate. And I want to see your stroke, and we're going to work on improving your stroke, Mr. Olympic swimmer that has all the answers. I'm going to actually make you better at what you already are excellent at doing. And that's what coaching's all about. And that's the kind of students that we want, the ones that will dive in the pool and say, okay, teach me, coach. What do I need to know?
And I think in terms of that analogy, it's excellent because it reminds me of a conversation I heard years ago, which had to do with the coach has a certain job, and it's not about getting in the swimming pool and swimming.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's seeing what the swimmer is doing and providing the input.
Exactly. Yeah. That's the theme, and that's the only way that it really works. They don't have to come to you completely coachable, but they have to agree to become coachable, completely coachable over time, and learn and grow as the relationship evolves.
Which makes so much sense, because if I'm working with someone and they're selectively taking the coaching and not producing the results they said they wanted to accomplish, they're not pleased and I'm frustrated.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm at a stage of life now where there's no amount of money that will cover my frustration.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's see. And well, I mean, this is great. We're going through a lot of the stuff. Well, let me ask you this. Based on it, when you recognize you've got someone who is coachable, what are the promises that you can make to them?
The promises from the coach to the client?
Correct.
Yes. Okay, good. Well, we've covered a lot of ground, and there's going to be there's not going to be enough time to cover some of the details of what we do. But believe it or not, Rennie, we teach our coaches right out of the gate when they graduate from the Thrive Business Academy, or they're in the Thrive Business Academy for coaches, or when they get out in front of their clients, even new coaches, we look at that $500 an hour mark as to fit into the monthly retainer fee that they work with, and we have them promise when they quote that kind of a fee to their prospective clients, we teach them to promise to give a 3 times return on investment. So you come to me and say, hey Gary, I don't think you know much about real estate or owning apartments or whatever, but I think you're a pretty good coach, and I want to hire you, and I quote you $2,500 a month, just to pick a number. And I'm going to say, Rennie, I won't even take this relationship on. I don't even want to coach you unless we can create $7,500 a month return on your $2,500 a month investment. And you're going to say to me, they all say the same thing, so I'll tell you what you're going to say. Well, how are you going to do that? And I'm going to say, well, what are your goals? And you're going to say, my goal is this and that, and I'm going to increase my rents on this building, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do the math on that. I'm going to say, well, that looks to me like if we accomplish that in the next 4 or 5 months, and 5 months from now you're doing all those things, my quick math tells me that your income is going to go up about $12,000 to $14,000 a month. And you'll doodle and you'll do the math, and you go, okay, that's right. Well, that's what I'm going to hold you accountable to, and that's the coaching that I'm going to bring to the table. Now that I know your goal, now that I know what you're looking to achieve, and you've told me that you're coachable, I've given you the fee, and I'm promising that together we are going to commit on a minimum of $7,500 increase in monthly income for you. And there's probably upside for that. Are you up for that? Are you going to commit to that, Rennie? Because I'll commit to it if you'll commit to it.
Got it. Yeah, that's perfect. It's the two-way street. Yeah, a one-way street's not going to work.
And it's the same identical scenario in marriage. If one person's committed to a marriage and the other one's not, it never works, right?
Yep.
Marriage is a give and take proposition, and at the very outset of the relationship, and I want everybody that hears this and that hears the recording, I want them to get this. At the very outset of a marriage, in traditional marriage ceremonies, it goes something like this. I commit for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and health, until death do us part. And it's no different for the coaching relationship. You get together, you work together, and I can't do the work for them. There's not enough hours in the day for me to do that, and I don't know enough about their individual specificities of their business to do it for them. But I do know this. When I ask them questions like, can you give me copies of your P&L? Can you give me a copy of your job descriptions? Can I get a copy of your plan or your action plan? Do you have an org chart? How often do you and your employees meet together on an all employees regular meeting, okay? What is your core values statements that you make to your employees that everybody lives by? What's the definition of your culture? What's the mission statement that you have? And those are just the first line of questioning. And when they can't answer those questions, or they can't provide me with that information, then I say, we better roll our shirt sleeves up and get to work here. We've got a lot of work to do, and it's not going to be a whole heck of a long time before you start seeing a 3 times return on your investment.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. And when you're talking about that as well, it reminds me of large organizations I've seen where the person at the top had a very high level of integrity, and that filtered all the way down to the person who was cleaning the toilets.
Absolutely.
And the person at the top of the organization who had no integrity, who would do whatever he could to take advantage of other people, that was filtered out and going on throughout his own organization. It's like, yeah, from the top down, it reflects
And you know what, Rennie, I'll give you a classic example of that. And again, there's so much I would love to say, but we're limited by time. But
yeah.
Classic example of that is the food chain, the fast food chain, Chick-fil-A.
Oh, yes.
Here's what goes on in Chick-fil-A. They never say, I've never heard one employee ever say, when I say, thank you very much, they never say, you're welcome, or no problem, or A-okay. They always say the same thing. They always say, it's my pleasure. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I've talked to some of the managers of the different franchisees, and I've talked to the employees. Some of the employees have made it their personal mission to memorize my name, even though I go in there once or twice a month. I'm not a regular. They're not in my path of travel regularly. They say, I'm going to remember your name, and they don't call me Mr. Henson. They call me Mr. Gary. They don't call me Gary. They call me Mr. Gary. And they're only open 6 days a week. They close Sundays, part of their core values, and they do more business per location, per franchisee than any of the other fast food chains who are open 7 days a week. Now, that's an example of living out your integrity, your intention, keeping true to your statement and your core values, and passing that on to the employees and the franchisees so that they can live out the same exact set of values.
Thank you for that example, because I know there are many more, and you're right, we are limited by time, but but thank you. And well, getting back to the promise, you've got a promise of 3 times what your contracted fee is going to be.
Yes.
And you're not talking now. Do you do this on a month-by-month basis or an annual basis? And then I want to get to my next question.
Okay, great. I'll try to be brief so you can get your next question. One of the big issues that coaches of all levels make are not having a written agreement with their clients that includes the fees, the dates and times, and an agreement of ground rules for coaching. So let me give you a couple of quick tips so we can move on. Number 1, we sign a 1-year agreement with our clients. We tell them if you're going to make major changes and you're going to have a 3 times return on your investment, it's going to take a year likely to shift the organization from where you are now to where you want to be. So here's where you are and here's where you want to be. That's not going to happen overnight. And the harder you work at it, the more assignments that you take on, the more books you read, the more work you do in our client workbook, you're going to get the results. The harder you work towards it, the faster you're going to get the results. Okay, and you're going to have to follow the ground rules. I can't have you tell me how to coach you. You're going to have to follow the ground rules. Okay, so that helps support the relationship, and it's getting the relationship off on the right foot is the key to the whole thing. And the average client stays with us for 23 months on average. So that it's a month-to-month agreement. They can cancel by giving a 30-day notice anytime they want. But the average client stays with us 23 months. Why? Because they're unsatisfied. Why? Because they're not getting results? No, because they've learned to adapt to a different lifestyle in their business. They've learned that like any great sports team, any great theater actor, any great movie actor, anybody in the arts that's a great singer or a first-class actor or performer, all have coaches.
Yes.
And once they've adapted to that lifestyle, they don't like living without a coach.
Yeah, and what I heard very importantly that I'll define is you're managing expectations up front. When you're talking about the ground rules and what you expect of them, if you give them a book to read in the second or third month you're working together, it's not a big shock because you've managed those expectations up front.
Absolutely.
Great.
Well said.
So, so along those lines, let's say that I'm considering hiring you. I'm a little bit reluctant. You know, I'm not sure how it's going to work for me. I've not had a coach before. Can you offer a guarantee to me?
Yes. So in addition to that 3 times return on investment, which we don't talk about until the end of the demonstration, you want to get a feel for how the first meeting or the first and second meeting with the client's going. And so once you've gotten a feel for it and they feel like they're comfortable, but they can't quite see themselves writing a check for the first month's fee of $2,500 or $3,000 or $4,000, we do offer a money-back guarantee, and we wait until all of the other cards are on the table. So I'm satisfied with the relationship so far. I've deemed that they are coachable at some level. I feel comfortable with working with them. You know, some retail businesses I don't like working with, manufacturing I don't like working with. Occasionally I'll take those clients, but I want to be real comfortable with the relationship and how they handle themselves and the product line and what they do. Some things I just don't feel comfortable with, and I might refer them to another coach. But when it gets to that apex, that defining moment in the relationship, the tipping point, if you will, I say to them, look, I can see the reluctance on your part. And I'm sitting here saying to you to write a check to me for $3,000 or $4,000 to be your coach for the first month's fee. And I can see the hesitancy. I typically say, let me just ask you, can you agree to the ground rules? We have 11 different ground rules that they have to agree to. So I shove that in front of them and have them read that first. And they almost always ask a couple of questions, and they start to get the feel for the relationship. And then they say, yes, I can agree to those ground rules. And I say, fine, just initial in the lower right-hand corner, let me get you to agree that even though we haven't agreed to go ahead, that if we do or sometime down the road, that you've read this and we don't have to cross that river again. Yep. And then I say to them, look, how about if we go ahead today, you not knowing me totally, me not knowing you totally, but I have a good feel for where we're headed. How about if I offer you a 100% money back guarantee, and that enables you to say today that the risk falls purely on the coach's shoulders and takes all of the burden, all the pressure, all the risk off of you and puts the risk from your shoulders to my shoulders. Well, how would you feel about that? Now, about 60% of the time they say, wow, I think that would go ahead with that. And I say, well, wait a minute. I said, how would you feel about that? I didn't say I would agree to that. Is that something that would help you make up your mind today? Because I don't want them to think that I'm going to drive away and they've got a year to make up their mind whether they're going to utilize the money back guarantee. Once I get them to agree and say that, I say, okay, here's how it works. If you look at a typical calendar month, or if you look at 4 weeks, it has 28 days in it. We're going to meet on the 1st, the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. So we're going to meet at least 5 times. You're going to get a real good feel for how I operate in those first 5 meetings. And you're going to determine whether you like me or not. And maybe you don't even like me, but maybe you like the program, but you don't want to work with me. That's okay. I understand that. Not every 2 people in the world are designed to work together. But here's what I'm going to do. You write me a check for $3,000 today and sign my agreement, which just outlines that anytime during the agreement, You can give me a 30-day notice and you can cancel even in the middle of the month. And I'm going to take your check and your signed agreement. And when I show up on that 28th day after 5 meetings, I'm going to bring my checkbook with me at that meeting. And if you're not 100% satisfied with the arrangement, and you're not completely satisfied that where we're going is going to get you a 3 times return on your investment, is going to be a relationship that you're going to want to continue on with, and you're going to see that you're getting results in your personal and your business life. If you don't see all of that, and you don't think you want to go on, I'm going to write you a check for $3,000. And we typically charge $350 for our client workbook. I'm going to have that be a gift to you. You can keep the client workbook and take anything out of that client workbook that's value to you. You can keep that, use it in the future. No holds barred, no strings attached. I want clients that are going to work with me. They're going to do their assignments. They're going to want to grow, and they want to expand themselves and think outside of the box that they're living in now. And if you're that person, let's move ahead today.
That's great. And one of the things that I picked up on what you said is, how would you feel if I offered you a guarantee?
Yes.
Not that I am offering it to you.
Yes. And you want to make that distinction very clear to them.
Yes. Terrific. That makes so much sense. And I guess 2 more questions. One of them deals with how someone grows as a business coach and finds their clients. And the second is, how can the people who are either on the call right now or listening to the recording get more information from you? Because you and I have talked for 5-6 hours or more, so I know plenty. and all we've got is this 60 minutes. So yes. The next question is, if I wanted to begin doing business coaching, where might I expect to be able to find clients?
Okay, so let me give you our URL address out now, and again at the end of the last question, so people, because there's a lot of free stuff that we have, and there's a website that people don't know about. So our parent company, the company that I founded 29 years ago, is businesscoach.com. www.businesscoach.com. We also have another site called www.becomeabusinesscoach.com. Becomeabusinesscoach.com. So there's plenty of free stuff. There's some great ThinkBook stuff that is great information for how you can position yourself to your clients, and it's information that your clients would like to have. So you can actually copy our brochures and our material to help set yourself up to be a professional business coach by using some of our materials that you get on one of either of those 2 sites, businesscoach.com or becomeabusinesscoach.com. Now,
what's the difference between those 2 sites?
Well, one, businesscoach.com speaks primarily to our clients and the companies that we work with, and it also has and will have more information on how to get to the other site.
Got it.
Becomeabusinesscoach.com is strictly for coaches, and the information and the different free gifts and blogs and podcasts that we have on there is strictly for coaches who want to become high-end coaches or high-end business coaches. Okay.
Great, thank you.
All right.
2 completely different target markets. Got it.
Yeah. Now, what was the original question? I got so excited I
forgot. Where would a business coach find clients? I mean, do they go to Chamber of Commerce meetings? Do they join like the Automotive Dealers Association? I mean, what do they do?
Yes, they go to all those different places, but there's a starting point, Rennie, that most people step over, and that is defining, first of all, what is your niche? What you really want as a client. Now, you made a couple of statements during our time together today about there's not enough money to pay you to deal with frustration, or I would assume that. I mean, you don't want to buy a property or get in a relationship with somebody that's going to frustrate you, even if it's fruitful for you financially. Okay, so you're financially comfortable in life, and you're comfortable with your wife and your relationship, and your kids and your life. So you don't want to take on burdens, right? So
correct.
A good niche. A lady said to me a number of years ago, she bought our small business coach master training system, and she called me up and she said, Coach Gary, we had this conversation about her learning more and growing and having me coach her more. And I said, so tell me what your niche is. She said, I deal with female dentists within a 25-mile radius of my office. Female dentists. And most people would think she's cutting the market too thin. She's limiting herself to a very narrow audience.
Yeah, I wouldn't even think there are that many.
There's not that many, but the few that are out there are very aware of her and that she has a relationship and a coaching conversation and a coaching program just for those people. And she's a female and they're female, so they have a relationship that a male can't have. Females in that industry feel like they're somewhat segregated, and it's a good old boy network. So when she comes along, she speaks, to answer your question now, she speaks at their association meetings. She goes where they go. She goes to their website. When she goes to the dental association regional meetings where there's thousands of dentists, she gravitates towards female dentists and does speaking at those engagements that speaks directly to female dentists, female orthodontists, female oral surgeons, and so on and so forth. So the audience is a little bigger than you think it is. And she also writes white papers and books and information pamphlets and coaching tips to that group of people. So they refer her to other like-minded dentists and oral surgeons and people like that, okay? So first of all, choose your niche. Secondly, become an expert in that niche. Thirdly, go hang out where people hang out in your niche. So that lady could start her own networking group of just people that are in the dentist industry that are females, and she could throw a nice gala event and have a nice coach handbag as the prize, as a giveaway prize that day that only women would really want, right?
Yeah.
And talk their language, speak their language, and then when they come to the event, and everybody pays for their own lunch or pays for their own coffee or whatever she's going to have, she can have speakers there, and she can have copies of all of her white papers, all of her trusted advisor information that she has for those people, and they can not only see her as the expert, not only enjoy the relationship of another female who can understand their unique problems, but they see her as the person in the industry that they want to refer to other like-minded people. So she can have clients all over the world because you and I aren't sitting next to each other room to room.
Right.
We can have a relationship on any one of a number of networks like this, and she can get that information out. And when they have the national and the international and the regional speaking engagements, she can let the people that are putting that on know, I can speak to that group or do workshops for that group because I'm one of the very few people that specialize as a woman to women-owned businesses, and I can address their unique issues. So those are just some of the ways you can join networking groups. Don't make it a small one, make it a big one. Don't make it a networking group with hundreds of coaches in it. Make it with one, a big group with one or no other coaches, or maybe there's a life coach, an executive coach, and you're the business coach. Okay, you can do that. There's all kinds of ways you can reach out to people, and we have an actual list of friends, and then underneath the category of friends, there's like 8 categories: friends of friends, employees of friends, association members of friends, bowling league friends of friends, all these different places. So there's so much different places. What I would say to anybody listening to this recording or live here today is this: there's a lot of people out there that need our help. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that don't know the first thing about being an entrepreneur, and they got lucky and they stayed in business. And unlike 90% of the other business owners, they made it to the 5th anniversary and they're still alive and vibrant. They need a coach. They can use somebody like you that can bring an outside objective opinion, could be their accountability partner, and point to areas where they can get major results in their business that they're not getting results now. So let's go out and start helping shift America and make America great again. Uh-oh, that's somebody else's line. I better not
I'll
use
be careful with that
Make
one.
America business great again, and help business owners and coach business owners, because they can't do those 3 things for themselves, but we can help them at least in those 3 areas, not to mention all the aforementioned things that we've talked about.
Yeah, perfect. And I guess, two things. In other words, I could be networking in a chamber of commerce, meet a bunch of different business people, and recognize there's something that I am attracted to with the person who is in manufacturing. And you said that's not something you like. And, I may have an affection for the guy who manufactures signs for businesses or something.
Absolutely.
Or it may be that I meet an insurance agent and I want to coach insurance agents or financial planners or chiropractors or whatever, because I have some affinity toward them. So I guess that would be one of the ways of determining what your niche or niche should be, is what do you have an affection for? Or it could be, I guess, maybe what do you have background and training in? Like,
yes,
someone who's a real estate broker may want to work with other real estate agents.
Absolutely. And just in that example, you could put into your byline that you're the coach for starving real estate agents or something like that, so that people know what it is that you do, and specifically, and you know what? There's many, just in this example, as an example, there's many successful real estate agents, okay, that get asked questions all day, every day by starving real estate agents, and they would be happy to refer you if all you do is work with real estate agents and that's what you love to do, and your byline is, I work with starving real estate agents to make them successful.
Yeah. Now, and that may be more along the lines of an ordinary coach as opposed to a business coach, because if they're starving, they're not going to be paying the $2,500 or $3,000 a month contract fee. Right.
And in that case, maybe group coaching or some other kind of coaching is more applicable, where maybe you charge $750 a month and you meet with them for an hour at the beginning of the month and 15 minutes to hold them accountable in the middle of the month. If you can put a niche like that together and make it profitable, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And it could be that you bring together 5 or 6 starving realtors together and coach them all at the same time in a group.
Absolutely.
And therefore you've multiplied the fee.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, let's do this. We've only got a couple minutes, and I do recall that you've got 2 different websites. One of them is, I think it was businesscoach.com.
Yep. www.businesscoach.com and www.becomeabusinesscoach.com.
Yeah. So the Become a Business Coach would be for those who want to get into that field. And the other one probably wouldn't apply for the people on the call, because it's not likely they would become clients to be coached based on their business, but I could be wrong.
Well,
I don't know who's going to hear the recording yet.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And business owners could go to that site, but coaches could go there and see how we position ourselves and see a little bit as how we relate to the business world out there.
Oh, okay.
So they could go to both sites and kind of work both ends to the middle, if you will.
And that makes a lot of sense. They should see both websites.
Absolutely.
Perfect, Gary.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're just about to wrap up. We'll end it about a minute early. Let's see if there's anything. Nope, there's nothing in the chat box. No specific questions. This recording will be on the web portal for Wealth on Any Income. And for anyone listening, there's $1,000 worth of free gifts on wealthonanyincome.com for people who want to grow their business, how to do focus marketing, how to ask for referrals and things of that nature, as well as a 3-page summary of my award-winning best-selling book with the same title, Wealth on Any Income. And Coach Gary, thank you for spending the 60 minutes with me. Thank you for being the guinea pig for my first ever interview.
My absolute pleasure, Rennie. It's been a pleasure. As you know, I enjoy our relationship. You and I have a lot in common, and let's get back on the phone and chat a little bit next week or the following week. But thank you so much for having me. As you know, wind me up, let me go. This is what I love to do. The last thing I'll say is that we also have a specific academy for coaches, the Thrive Business Academy for Coaches, and that should be found on becomeabusinesscoach.com as well. they should look into that. It's a great thing, and they can hear from me and get 50 plus recordings, our Small Business Coach Master Training System, the client workbook, all for one small fee. So that's something that if anybody wants to become a business coach and excel at it, they want to be extraordinary, that's the product for them.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Coach Gary. You have a wonderful time. Try and stay dry. I know we're going to have a big storm hitting Southern California. I don't know if it's going to be hitting Sacramento or not.
We're getting one in a couple of days. So after you get done with it, we'll be dealing with it. So we'll stay dry, and thanks again for having me.
You got it. All right. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. And again, the recording will be on the portal.